Hey folks, it's Soul, and today we interrupt production on the Monday video to respond to some of your folks' comments on the most previous weekly, because some of you have had some really strong responses to what I thought was a conversation inviting sort of question. So the other day I asked if delves were too easy, with not enough context behind that, and that was a big mistake. I did give an anecdote of my experience, and I invited you all to share your takes. Many of you said they're not too easy and they're tuned just fine. Others said that they are easier, and you know what, that's still just fine. And others still said that, yeah, they are in fact too easy, and shared some concerns. And then and then there were some folks who just got really upset. If you want more difficult delves, go on a Mythic raid or in Mythic plus 12. Stop annoying everyone with your bullshit. It's because of people like you that some fun new features become ruined and unplayable. I don't understand why people listen to you. You only harm the game first and last time I watch your channel. I'm not finding delves super easy. I think they're appropriately challenging based on my character's item level relative to the recommended item level. I would say if you think they're too easy, then go raid or touch grass. I'm glad this comment section is against you asking if, quote, delves are too easy. Let the players enjoy the game they pay for. Just relax, dude. Delves too easy? Coming from a guy that plays all day and night. You forget some of us have jobs and also enjoy not sitting for hours in front of a computer. Worst part of the game is elitist like yourself. Delves don't need to be harder. If you want more of a challenge, do mythic rating, do high-level mythic key dungeons, do a higher tier delve by yourself. I especially wanted to highlight this one because it had 69 upvotes. Nice. So I apologize for leaving some impression that I wanted delves to be tougher because, well, I would like to believe that I am, in fact, a big supporter of delves. I think they're kicking ass, and I didn't say anything suggesting that they should be harder, although apparently it did. So I'm sorry for that. In a video that was mostly gushing over horrific visions, which is sort of related to this topic, my little blurb on delves just kind of sucked out the oxygen in those couple of seconds. So I want to talk a little bit more. I want to expand my thoughts on delve difficulty, share my thoughts on it from my perspective as a player and my perspective on it as a commentator, because they're sometimes different, even though, sometimes the lines do get blurred. So I want to make very, very clear, as a player, I think delves are feeling easier than they were in season 1. Many of you know me as a tank, and that's all like kind of cheesy. So I decided to try out an evoker who I don't play at all. I definitely don't know how the crowd control stuff works. And I did find 8s to be pretty accessible. But of course, that is just one take from one player. It doesn't mean anything but to say that, my comments aren't just coming from nowhere. And it doesn't suggest there should be any retuning of the current season. So I didn't make that clear, and I'm just trying to do that now. As a commentator, I am observing that delves do seem easier, but they're also, this change is also better for the game overall. And again, it's important to make that sort of distinction. The delve audience is massive. It spans the skill level of 11 tiers worth of difficulties, and beyond that for people who happen to outplay its current difficulty. So like every other audience in WoW, there's going to be a lot of takes, and we are going to come to a disagreement. I don't do this sort of commentary to pander or make base takes. It's to initiate some conversation and, more often than not, some disagreement. So the way I'm looking at it, two things happened with delves in season 2. One, the early gearing side of it got easier. Now, accessibility isn't bad. Maybe for someone like me, it feels a little bit awkward because, here I am with an evoker, learning the class as I go, but I have a lot of delve knowledge. So I am able to, more or less brute force my way through, even with a low item level, like in the 600s or so. It's not the feeling I expect to have the first week of the season, though. Being able to get access to the highest levels of delve gear so readily when I'm using the equivalent item level of gear from the previous season. The delve takes a little bit longer, yeah, sure, but personally, I don't connect speed with accessibility. If it's done in 25, 30 minutes, that's, that seems on target. It seems pretty good in my book. But the other thing that happened with delves was to kind of declaw tiers 9 through 11. They tuned them down and made them easier with respect to, again, gearing. And this is also good. And in fact, I'm still very much in favor of giving a season catch up to the gilded chests available from tier 11s. That way folks who are progressing slower and going towards them in the coming weeks or months, they're not going to feel like, oh no, there's all that gilded that came out previous in the season and they missed out on all that. And now they're still going to be stuck earning only like so many crests per week. It's a weird spot to suddenly be gated. However, by making tiers 9 through 11 easier, the way I see it, they also effectively made Delve Endgame, its maximum difficulty, also easier outside of that one encounter against the Underpin hard mode. So here, I'm going to put up a picture. This isn't going to be the best illustration, but I'm going to try and use raids as an example. So in raids, we have 4 difficulties, and we have 4 kinds of gear to match. Now, let's take out the Raid Finder rewards, and let's take out Mythic difficulty. And then we'll kind of slide things over, we'll put it all back together. What you see here, it's not a great model, but I hope it helps make my point. With Season 2 of Delves, what they kind of did here was nerf some of the difficulty, and they left out these lower tier rewards. Now, I know I'm kind of walking on eggshells here, but again, this left-hand side here with the easy gearing, like that's working out fine. Players, for the most part, they're happy, and that's very important at the start of a season. My attention is directed more towards the right, where the opportunities for players to challenge themselves, or where they feel like their difference in gear progression, it's been filed down and we're left to, I don't know, make stuff up like purposefully under-gearing or using suboptimal curios or making another class so they have something to do. It's not my wish for anything here on this left-hand side to change, but more like, but for more to be added in the other direction. Of course, I know this is a dangerous thing to suggest too, because depending on what is introduced here, it's going to reintroduce conversations of players feeling gated from cool things. Some of the commenters suggest folks who aren't challenged by delves to move into keys, and raids, group content. I guess that's kind of a response to years of those same people being told, hey, if you want to get better gear, then you should go do the higher level content. And that's fair. It's a natural response. But the truth is, I don't find either comment to be very productive. Some players really just want to solo, and they also happen to seek out greater challenges. And if they're not finding it in delves, if they want to flex the gear they've been earning and they're not seeing it, well, they ought to be heard too, right? We shouldn't tell them to shut up. The challenge with adding difficulty can be seen with the evolution of Mythic Plus World over in Season 2. Like, we're seeing this more distinct side, these 2 distinct sides of gearing versus pushing, where, one side is considered easier these days, but when you cross that threshold, okay, cool, it's game time. Now we're entering competitive WoW. Meanwhile, we're seeing delves transition to a new season for the first time ever. It's not going to happen, well, I guess this isn't going to happen overnight or within the scope of the World Soul Saga, but as the delve community finds its voice within this, again, very diverse audience, we might see a separation like this happen too, like in Mythic Plus. There are drawbacks to that because, again, we're going to introduce these conversations on the fear of missing out, right? More things that are going to go away at the end of the season. We're going to have these, there's going to be haves and have-nots and so on and so forth. But Mythic Keystone Dungeons aren't delves. Raids aren't delves. Delves, it's going to be a new road, and that we and the developers are going to walk down. And that's why I'm predicting the revisit to Horrific Visions is going to be a much bigger deal than it first appears. Now, never mind the sanity stuff, or heck, never mind how you might have felt about Horrific Visions if you've done these before. In a few short months, we're going to see people run delves and Horrific Visions at the same time as bona fide optional solo challenges with progression and rewards. We're going to see side-by-side comparisons. We're going to see the takes, the good and the bad, and Blizzard's going to pay attention. Because I predict the next evolution of delves, like, further down the road, I think it's going to be inspired by Horrific Visions' most defining feature. and it's the concept of these masks, not the timer or the sanity, but the masks. If you remember masks, they added a new layer of difficulty to horrific visions, and we could activate up to 5 at the same time for like this pretty crazy difficult experience. Back then, the rewards for completing this were cosmetics and a title. If delves are someday going to expand its audience with higher difficulties, while very importantly leaving the rest, the left side, to be focused on accessibility and smooth progression, I I mean, I don't see infinitely scaling difficulty for delves coming in. I don't see a timer or a sanity meter, but I do see a way of toggling difficulties beyond tier 11s by adding these affixes, or what are sometimes called heat levels in similar games. And you know what? That might be a total ass idea. The point, though, the takeaway from all this, though, is delves as a system, it's young. We're in the first week of the second season in its expansion debut. And in my opinion, they might have missed the mark a little bit, but overall, players will be happy this season because they're gearing up, they're getting stuff. It shouldn't retune. It's too late for that, and we should simply enjoy the season for what it is and get the feedback that comes from it. My hope though in the future is that they continue listening and they do more than just retune stuff in later seasons, but also add to it. That way, delves can include more people, just like how big group content like raids and smaller group content like dungeons have evolved to bring more kinds of players in. This can be very exciting as long as we continue having these sorts of discussions and inviting more people in to chime in. And I'll see you for the Monday video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.